Good afternoon, everyone. It's hard to believe that on this day last year, on the 19th of March 2020, I stood at the Munners on Norfolk Island down at Kingston and hosted the 230th anniversary luncheon of the shipwreck of HMS Sirius. A luncheon was actually held on the site where the ship Marines and the crew actually disembarked the shipwreck of HMS Sirius and came on shore. And yes, what a year it has been since then. We were one of the last people to actually leave Norfolk Island, arrive back in Australia on the bigger island before the COVID lockdown. This afternoon, I'm going to just give you a brief talk about HMS Sirius, the primary records going behind the actual shipwreck, and also the voyage to Norfolk Island. My name's Kathy Dunn, and I'm the author of HMS Sirius, Her Final Voyage, and also many of the other publications that you'll see in this webinar today. We are very fortunate to have such a diverse range of accounts of the HMS Sirius shipwreck, from Bradley to George Napier to Hunter to King, even the seaman Jacob Nagle, who was on board the ship at the time of the wreck. Prior to the actual moving of the ship to try and make it safe, he was actually shipping off the stern of the boat. No one had any idea that they were in danger or potential danger. Links to the journals, which majority of them are online. If you go to hmssirius.com.au, there's links and descriptions, and all of that is available on the website as a resource, not only for family historians, but also for researchers. Here we have the crew muster for March 1790, the HMS Sirius. Nearly didn't even make it to Norfolk Island because it was nearly shipwrecked on the South Headlands of Port Jackson. And of course, Hunter doesn't mention that in his journal nor his log, but Jacob Nagle and also Ralph Clark, there's another journal that does report the near miss of a shipwreck at Port Jackson. This here is the muster of the crew. And when you're looking at shipping musters, you have to look at each individual time period. You just can't take a shipping muster of the Sirius from 1787 and go, oh, that's my ancestor. He must have arrived on the HMS Sirius in January 1788. That's not always the case, because there were transfers of crew, ship Marines, and also convicts, noting that the HMS Sirius did not bring any convicts to New South Wales. And if you look at the right-hand side, you'll see with this particular muster, we've got the 12th of April, 1790, and that particular crew member is located at Port Jackson. Then we have the 20th of March, 1790, Norfolk Island. Hold on. The next one's the 12th of April, 1790, at Port Jackson, followed by the 20th of March, 1790. Not all crew and not all the ship Marines went on the voyage to Norfolk Island in March 1790. So you have to go through the crew muster to see what crew remained in Sydney or Sydney Cove and what crew were actually on the voyage. And the same goes for the ship Marines too. The ship Marines were part of the ship's company. They were not a unit of the Marines in Sydney. they were assigned to the ship. Here we have the Marines, the normal Marines, we'll call them, of July 1787. And we can see some transfers, what ship they were transferred to, and also if there was a death. And in this particular case, there wasn't. It features their rank and also where they were at any one particular date, or whether they were moved to another ship. Were they still on that ship? So you have to check each individual one. So if you've got an ancestor who is on this list, please check. There were even transfers of the Marines before they actually left England. And of course, transfers throughout the voyage. HMS Sirius, yes. Here, this drawing here is from Botany Bay. There is no illustration or image of the bow of the boat. The bow of the boat is the front of the boat. We bow to the front. There are different stories about there may be a mascot on the bow of the boat or the front of the boat. There may not be a mascot on the front of the boat. It is not known. HMS Sirius was the flagship of the First Fleet. It was also the largest ship. And to the rear of this image, you can actually see HM Supply. That's right, not HMS. It was the size of a small yacht. It was not classified or large enough to be classified as a ship, even though, yes, it was in the Royal Navy. And you can see the size comparison, which is about spot on, even allowing for artistic expression. The Supply was a small vessel. So when you're reading online, etc., you'll see HMS Supply, HMS Supply. All the journals, except one record that I found I've recently located from Norfolk Island, has HM or arm tender or brig. It is not HMS Supply. It is only Her Majesty's, being a vessel in the Royal Navy. And you can see the size comparison between the two. Yes, there were Marines on HMS Sirius. These were Marines that were being sent to Norfolk Island to act as the military on the island. And you can, the shipping master also gives the date of their disembarkment. So we look down the bottom, we've got the 19th. Hold on, the ship was wrecked on the 19th at 12 noon. That is because on board the ship at the time of the wreck, there were still military Marines. They had not all disembarked over at Cascade a few days earlier. Like John West and William Humes, both drummers in the Marines, and they disembarked on the 13th of March. So we can see that Andrew and William Nash were on board the ship at the time of the wreck, and they disembarked the ship on the 19th. We're so fortunate to have all these records that you can drill down and analyse and literally extract so much information, but not only about the lives of the individuals, but also about life at the time. Last year, we had a special brochure, and these are some of the quotes about the wreck at the time on Norfolk Island. Good gracious, what will become of us all? There is present no prospect of it except that us starving. Lieutenant Ralph Clark. She struck upon a reef of coral rocks which lie parallel to the shore, and in a few strokes was bulged. In other words, the moment the ship hit the reef, the first time it hit the reef, it bored a hole into the hull of the boat. and there's different reports. There was 5 foot of water, there was 10 foot of water, there was also 15 foot of water. I ordered the mast to be cut away, which was done immediately. Captain John Hunter. Prior to ordering the mast to be cut down, women and children off the ship. So 2 Marine wives, a child, and also Captain Cook's timepiece were taken off the ship with the last longboat or tender that was taking the supplies to shore. We've all escaped from the shipwreck with our lives, yet our situation with respect to provisions was very precautious, it being very doubtful if any could be saved. What happened was, it was a matter of saving the people's lives from the wreck as the ship started to sink. And actually, the hull remained on the reef for another until January 1792. Marine wives and children, and we can see the Marines' wives who were disembarked on the day of the shipwreck, and the children. There were male convicts aboard the ship: John Owls, Richard Colley, Charles Allen. There were female convicts. They were not sent to Norfolk Island because they were naughty. Sydney Cove was starving. The Guardian never arrived. It was shipwrecked. Should the Guardian have arrived at Sydney Cove with its provisions, the HMS Sirius may never have ever been sent to Norfolk Island. And the women on the muster are according to their conviction name. Lillian Munro had married Andrew Goodwin a few days before they embarked on HMS Sirius for the voyage. They tended to keep married convict couples together. The convict women who had marine partners weren't always necessarily kept together. And there was quite a few pregnant women on HMS Sirius for the voyage to Norfolk Island, but the father of the child, being a Marine, was still based in Sydney. We do have the convict children: Mary Munro, who was Mary Goodwin, James Phillips, William Springham, Hannah Harrison. And you can match up, if you compare the women with the children, they actually lined them up together. So the order of women or the mothers is the same as the order of the convict children. Where do you get resources and readings about HMS Sirius? You can see them online. We've got a mouse there, it's online. At the National Library in Canberra from their website, the Mitchell Library Sydney, the State Library in Sydney, the National Archives in London, and also Trove, which has the National Archives Admiralty records, which is the shipping muster. And of course, there's lots of readings, articles on every single person who was on the voyage to Norfolk Island in March 1790, and also other passengers on previous voyages. For example, a ship's marine who was transferred, a marine who was transferred, or they arrived on the Sirius, but not necessarily did they go to Norfolk Island. Even crew who were transferred to the Sirius after the arrival in January 1788, but were not even on the voyage to Norfolk Island, while some were on the voyage to Norfolk Island. The Sirius took on additional crew in 1789. So here's one. There's many drawings of HMS Sirius and the shipwreck at the time on Norfolk Island. This is a George Raper drawing, and it has been used quite a few times. He reproduced it. He drew this up. He didn't jump off the ship and race up over to Turtle Bay at the time and start drawing. This is his account of the actual shipwreck. And it's a view on the west side of Norfolk Island and the manner in which the crew and provisions were saved off His Majesty's ship, the Sirius. They did try to save some of the provisions and clothing and people's chests. 2 convicts actually went aboard the ship later on the following day and threw the cattle overboard, and they all swam to shore. And when they threw the provisions out and the casks out and the chests out, that all floated out to sea in the opposite direction. But eventually it did all most of it did wash up, being destroyed on the beach. At the time of the wreck, the women convicts who were watching this all happening screamed in horror, not knowing what was going to happen. And the commandant of the island, Ross, told the Marines to take them all away. So you can see there's a Hawkster system, and you're put into a little seat, and you were teabagged, dumped through the water and the reef onto another reef and through a game. It's a perfect activity, you could say, for the Amazing Race. But you can see how when they came ashore, they were scratched to the bone, that their skin was totally torn, and they were drowned, but not drowned as in death. They were just totally drenched because they had been sheep dipped across the water or into the water each time, and then also dragged across the reef until they reached the shore. 6 years ago today, we launched HMS Sirius, her final voyage, which was 280 pages. It was actually 2 years of my life, where we went back and we researched every single person from the ship and from that voyage. This day last year, we launched a booklet, HMS Sirius, Norfolk Island, 1790. And I've just done a count. We have 12 left because this booklet came with a souvenir medallion and we only had 300 of them minted. I have 12, but I've had to put one aside because the State Library has seemed to have misplaced their legal copy of the booklet and the medallion, so I will have to send it off to them if they can't find it. They've been looking for a while and they can't seem to find it, so I will have to send them another complimentary copy. So there is a legal copy. Each of the medallions are numbered, and then there's a few strays, about 10 of the booklet as standalones. During the COVID lockdown, if you want to call it that, or during downtime during COVID, we published a book called Shadows of the Past, First Settlement Headstones of Norfolk Island Cemetery. And yes, many of these people, or the parents of the children, arrived on Norfolk Island aboard HMS Sirius. Even as late as when the Norfolk Island closed down in February 1814, there was still a male convict, who was now a free man, of course, who arrived on Norfolk Island in March 1790. So he'd spent over 24 years on Norfolk Island. This afternoon, I'm actually launching a booklet titled Norfolk Island Births and Baptisms 1789 to 1791. And we have not used the web. We have not used any secondary records. We have only used primary records, and we've worked out which women were pregnant on the voyage to Norfolk Island, how they reunited with their marine lover, and also which children were baptised by Reverend Johnson in November 1791. And you can see the front illustration is George Raper, and it's a standalone image, but it's identical to the image that he drew regarding the manner in which people were removed off the shipwreck. You can purchase Norfolk Island births and baptisms 1789 to 1791 off our website, australianhistoryresearch.info. For information, articles, links, etc., illustrations for HMS Sirius, you go to www.hmssirius.com.au. In July, we're going off to Norfolk Island, and we're going for the History in Paradise, the Australian Federation of Family History Organisations Congress, which is held every 3 years. And I was going to actually talk at the Congress 3 years ago, but they moved the date, and the date clashed with Norfolk Island, so I can't be in two places at once. I'm actually giving two presentations at the Congress, and we're giving shipwrecked or not shipwrecked. That is the question. Norfolk Island births, deaths, marriages, first settlement, 1788 to 1814. We are offering a holiday package for that week, which leaves Sydney on the 30th of July and Brisbane on the 31st of July. All bookings will receive a complimentary hosted visit to Old Sydney Town, and this is part of Old Sydney Town down at Kingston, and this is the site of the second government house of 1792, which is behind where the first and second one was, because the first one was built and then they extended it, and the same with the 1792 site. It's not very many places where you can go and actually see relics of 1788, 1792, 1804. You can on Norfolk Island. The track at the back goes up to the top of the Flagstaff hill. For anyone who's into photography, there is just an amazing amount of locations and environment for photography on Norfolk Island. So we're just offering the holiday package, which includes the flights, accommodation, a half-day tour, car hire, and also the complimentary hosted visit to Old Sydney Town. On the Sunday, the 1st of August, there is the Congress Heritage Trade Show and Expo at Rawson Hall, and that is free entry, and we will be exhibiting at that expo on the 1st of August, and we'll also be launching a book that we're currently writing up, and its topic and title will be announced later on. We do have the History Lovers Tour in November 2021, as we step back in time and celebrate the 230th wedding anniversary of the marriages conducted by Reverend Johnson in November 1791. More information on that tour, which is either from Sydney or Brisbane, is available on our website, australianhistoryresearch.info. So that's where I will leave you for this afternoon. There is still, even though HMS Sirius happened 231 years ago, we are still researching, finding new information, locating new records that vary to other records. So everyone, enjoy your history research and go to www.hmssirius.com.au for information on the people. I'm also starting a new section on the website, and it's called The Next Generation. Now, there was 23 children on HMS Sirius for the voyage to Sydney. I dare say there's going to be easy from all those people who travelled to Norfolk Island. There's going to be easily another 200 pages I'm going to add to the website. So what we're doing is we're allowing people to submit an article, be it on their ancestor or someone they're interested, but the person must be the next generation. So their mother and or father must have a connection to HMS Sirius. It will be published on the website after proofing and verification, and everyone will be acknowledged accordingly. So just go along to the website HMS Sirius and the information is there. Everyone have a good afternoon, and I will catch up with you later for the launch of Births and Baptisms 1789 to 1791. Everyone take care. Thank you.